All right. Hello and welcome to a Monday edition of Blind Eye Live. Week 2 of being back at it. Let's get into it. I am Hunter King, Blind Eye himself, owner and operator of Blind Eye Media, a small little YouTube channel that you just now heard of, maybe? Hopefully, new viewers today. I'd be down. So, we got some interesting stuff to talk about. Some interesting rumors swirling around the NFL. Some quarterback market stuff, but some other interesting things. Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams contract demands, for starters. We've got some big opt-outs of the NFL Combine, which starts tomorrow in Indianapolis. And Derek Jeter just stepped down as CEO of the Marlins, which is interesting. And maybe we'll get into some more stuff. But I probably should have added a Combine preview to the title. I am starting a little early today. It is 2:30. I've got to be somewhere this evening, and I want to make sure I don't have to run out of a show like I did Thursday. So, with that being said, I know I put it second, but I'm going to go ahead and get into the NFL Combine opt-outs, because I saw two big names. I haven't seen any others yet that seemed super notable or that I was shocked by. Because some guys aren't going to be there because of injury or aren't going to perform. They might be there for measurements and stuff, but Derek Stingley Jr. seems hell-bent on ruining his draft stock. Derek Stingley Jr., extremely talented corner, highly touted corner out of Louisiana State University, was a massive part of their 2019 national championship run. Has spent the last 2 years being either injured or looking tentative and, not going 100% when he's been on the field. And now, and maybe this is health related or injury related, but if so, this guy can't get over these lower body extremity injuries. I don't know how he's going to play in the NFL or be effective. Maybe he's worried that, if he is still recovering or he doesn't think he's at 100%, maybe he's just going to play it safe and work the pro day. And that's fine. But you're taking yourself out of a competitive environment where you are falling. Your stock is dropping. Pretty much everybody now I'm looking at has Sauce Gardner ahead of him. And there are a lot of people who have Trent McDuffie now right with him at corner. Some people have him going ahead of Stingley at this point. So he's already lost the top spot. And he's kind of getting into that Caleb Farley territory. Now, Farley, of course, had a back procedure and looked pretty good before tearing his ACL early, or I think it was week 5 or so for the Titans this year. And Stingley, unlike Farley's tape got better and better. Stingley's coming off 2 years of disappointment, frankly. And here you are, once again, just being a disappointment as far as I'm concerned. Now, if this was the best medical move for him, I get it. But, I'd not heard any issues with that stuff. And maybe I should look a little further into this, which, I guess I absolutely can. Give me a quick second to go back and find the article. Well, where did I see? There we are. Let's pull up this article. Well, if I could get the right article, like, my gosh. I love when I move to a web page and I go to select something and an ad pops in and moves the page. Okay, let me switch over to... No, that's not what I want. Oh, there I am. So let's hit up this article real quick. Let me adjust my camera so I'm in frame while I'm reading this. One of my problems with ESPN is where they put their ads. I would much rather their ads be on the right side of the screen rather than the left, but whatever. I hate this little article wheel thing over here. It's just annoying, and you can't get rid of it. So sources: cornerback Derek Stingley Jr., Matt Corral won't work out at NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis. Now, I know Corral had dealt with injuries to both ankles during the college season. Multiple sources confirmed to ESPN the two would... So they are taking part in interviews and the medical exams. So that's good. So they're just not going to work out. See? Okay. So quarterbacks will do their on-field work on Thursday and defensive backs on Sunday at Lucas Oil Stadium. Stingley is the number 8 prospect overall in the draft and number 2 cornerback, according to Todd McShay, which, it was a big shift because for even most of the season, Gardner, was still behind Stingley, and Stingley was still, a top 5 guy, top 4 guy until after the season ended. While Corral is McShay's 27 prospect, number 3 quarterback. Both players, because of injuries this past season, were considered long shots to work out this week. See, I had not heard that either of them were long shots. I thought Corral's ankles were going to be good by now. And to be honest, I thought Stingley was going to be fine because I truly believed that he was exaggerating his injury problems to not play. Corral, who threw for 3,343 yards and 20 touchdowns and rushed for 614 yards and 11 TDs this past season, suffered a right ankle injury January 2nd. Oh, that's right. You know what? I forgot about that. Because he aggravated his right ankle on January 2nd. Because I was annoyed because something came up and I couldn't watch that game. So, that's not the... So, yeah, that's not a shock. Now, Stingley, who played in 3 games this past season, had a surgical procedure on his left foot in October. Stingley had originally suffered the injury last summer. SEC All-Freshman selection in 2019 with 6 interceptions in 15 games and was the conference's newcomer of the year that season as well. And he should have been an All-American. And he should have just been an All-SEC selection that season. I don't understand why. In 2020, he played in 7 games, finishing with 27 tackles. And he didn't look good in those for the most part in those 7 games. So that's that. And personally, like I said, with Corral, I somehow had totally forgotten about his ankle injury in in January. And so, sorry, I'm trying to get rid of something and it won't. Can I? All right, never mind. So, anyway, Corral, I get not doing workouts. It's only been like it's only been 2 months of time from that injury. It's probably not healed. He probably shouldn't be running around on it. Give him some time, give him to his pro day. And I'm not worried about Corral's athleticism. I know what it's like. And for quarterbacks, I don't care too much about the combine stuff. Yeah, maybe you're going to run them through some paces, some other stuff that maybe they didn't do in college, but I think you look at their tape, you look at their pro day, and if you're interested in him, schedule a workout. If he's not able to do workouts, now that would hurt him. But I'd be more concerned. I'm not really super concerned about him not throwing at the combine. Stingley, on the other hand, I am concerned. Like, he's played 10 games over the last 2 years. He's been injured for basically all of that time, even when he was playing. I can't remember. The thing is, if he waited till October to have a surgery on his foot on an injury that's serious enough that he's still out from after a foot surgery, he should have just gotten the surgery last summer when the injury happened. You know, people could say competitiveness, this or that. Like, those questions are still being asked right now. I don't know. This personally at this point, if I was a team in the top like 15, 20 picks, I might take him off my board for that high. You know, this seems like this is the exact kind of player the Titans have been preying on, you know, for teams. Like, the Titans just guys slide and we pick it up. Harold Landry slid out of the first rounds because of questions about an ankle, and we moved up, I think, in the second round to get him. And yeah, we did. Great decision as far as I'm concerned. The Jeffrey Simmons pick was a great pick. I'm still bullish on the Caleb Farley pick. You know, I questioned it at the time because I'm like, but, you know, his back wasn't what failed him this year. He tore his ACL. You know, that's guys come back from that. That injury happens. He looked pretty solid, and I liked his college tape. I think he's got tons of raw ability, and if he 100% recovers from the ACL, you know, then and at his age, that's, you know, wouldn't shock me. I think the Titans have a great three-headed monster of young corners on rookie deals right now in him, Christian Fulton, and Elijah Molden, who we also drafted last year. So this is going to be interesting. I'm really interested to see. Always it's fun watching the 40. I'm a big fan of 3-cone numbers. I think 3-cone numbers tell you a lot about a player's abilities and what type of roles he can play at his position. What you will and won't be able to potentially ask him to do. 3-cone numbers aren't necessarily everything, but it does show you a lot about a guy's flexibility and change of direction and explosiveness. That 6.9 number, getting around that for edge rushers I'll say this, it's a common trait among great edge rushers. Not that it's totally necessary. Like if you've got amazing like linear explosiveness and power, you know, you can get away with it being a little bit lower, but getting around that 6'9" area is big. And it can be big for, it's also really big for like linebackers, in my opinion, because of the amount of change of direction they do, and especially like outside backers who might be doing some rushing off the edge, stuff like that, and being able to flip your hips in coverage too. Like for versatile guys, that number's big. Um, for quarterbacks, the biggest thing at the combine, for the most part, is the interviews anyway. And interviews are important. Another fun fact about the combine this year: this is the first year that the Wonderlic will not be a part of the combine. Finally, the Wonderlic has never been like a great predictor of success, and people call it an intelligence test. There have been some guys who have scored ridiculously low on the Wonderlic were totally fine in the pros. Quarterbacks who didn't do super well in the Wonderlic, you know, were fine. Um, so, although I will say, some of the guys who've scored really low in the Wonderlic test have also had a tendency to also correlate with some of the players who have, let's just say, made poor life choices. So, there's that. Another, I'm trying to think of any other interesting combine notes. So it's running, it starts tomorrow, March 1st, and goes through March 7th. Yeah. And the like the first, I know Tuesday especially is like guys get in, you know, whatever, and then I think medicals start on Tuesday as well. Medicals and measurements. That's usually most of what the first 2 days are anyway. Uh there might be some on-field drills for someone on Wednesday. Um or for maybe the specialist on Wednesday. I need to look at that. And I know NFL Network will be doing, you know, coverage of the combine for sure. ESPN might be doing some, but usually that's, you know, the NFL Network. And I'll probably be following a decent amount of that myself this week. And then that gets into, and we'll kind of use this to fold into the NFL off-season rumor type stuff, because March 8th, so next Tuesday, that is the last day of the franchise tag window. And after that, there's an 8-day gap between the 8th and the 16th. And the 16th is when NFL free agency begins. We might start hearing some noise on the 15th about some done deals potentially. Although I hope not, for everybody's draft picks and, you know, not getting in trouble with, you know, league rules and stuff's sake. But I feel like this week, because there's usually a couple deals, like some of the first like couple trades of the offseason, a lot of times either get done or the wheels start at the combine. I would not be shocked with, you know, because of the franchise tag window, if a deal gets done. A lot of times there's a deal done during this window. Because in a lot of cases, it makes sense for teams to kind of do these deals or certain deals right now, so they already have that out of the way going into signing players and drafting players. So I wouldn't be shocked to hear some trade stuff kick up right now. I think it's going to be really interesting from because I keep getting back to the Packers. One of the rumors going around is Aaron Rodgers is asking for $50 million a year, and Devontae Adams is asking for 30. That's $80 million. Now you pair that with David Bakhtiari and is it Adrian Amos's deal, or maybe it's one of the Smiths, but there's like a group of like four or five guys. If those numbers were to, the Packers were to give those guys those numbers, it's like $125 million on the cap for like 4 players. That's untenable. And I'm going to be honest with the quarterback numbers. Quarterback numbers are getting retarded. Just simply put. If you're willing to pay it, like, and people could say, well, the salary cap's going up. You give it a couple years, and that number is going to look a lot better. Yeah, maybe. But everybody else is, like, all the other positions are going up, and at some point, it's like, as valuable as quarterback is, I can't pay, like, a fifth of my team's salary or a fourth of my team's salary to one guy. That's just... And here's the thing. Here's a fun fact about the quarterback money. If a quarterback's cap hit to his team is in the top 12, you're not winning the Super Bowl right now. It's been the case for years at this point. And yes, Tom Brady, I don't believe Tom Brady was in the top 12. No, he wasn't a top 10 quarterback in terms of money. So if Aaron Rodgers wants to win another Super Bowl, if that's his goal, being the highest paid quarterback in the NFL ain't going to cut it, or ain't going to get him a Super Bowl. Not in Green Bay, where he's at right now, because they would have to cut a ton of people. They'd have to cut both of the Smiths off the edge, which one of them needs to go anyway. Because Rashawn Gary is a starter for them for sure now. And I'd let Preston go and keep Za'Darius if I could. But they might cut both of them this offseason and maybe try and get a cheaper option. But I don't want to be the team paying somebody $50 million a year to play quarterback. Because I'm basically guaranteeing I'm not going to win the Super Bowl. If we're just looking at the way teams have been built for... I mean, I'm trying to think of how far back right now the last quarterback who was top 10 at his position in earnings was that won a Super Bowl. Based on the cap hit that year, by the way. Because you can look at average annual value of the contract, and the guy might be up there, but it's the key thing is the cap number at the time. Because Matt Stafford was not, I know he wasn't top 10, and I'm pretty sure he wasn't even top 12 at this point. Now, he was one of the richest, if not the richest quarterback in league history when he signed this current deal. But you also have to remember the Lions traded him to the Rams. And most of his, or a lot of his dead money was gone. Now, the Rams did have Goff's dead cap charges on, so maybe if you put those two together, it shifts that math. But Stafford wasn't making that much money on his own. So he might be a little bit of a caveat if you include the Goff dead money. But Joe Burrow played in the game. He's on a rookie contract. Russell Wilson won his Super Bowl, and I think played for the other one on his rookie deal. Jared Goff, when the Rams went to the Super Bowl the first time, he was on his rookie deal. Carson Wentz was on a rookie deal with Foles on a very cheap or on a bargain bin backup contract when they won the Super Bowl. Brady wasn't in the top 10 for, I think, basically every one of his Super Bowl wins. Because I don't think the year they beat the Seahawks, I don't think he was in the top 10 in money that year. And like I said, Russell Wilson was on his rookie contract. Well, I mean, Patrick Mahomes was on his rookie deal when they won the Super Bowl. And I think was still on his rookie deal when they lost to the Buccaneers. I don't think any big money had kicked in. So, yeah. Look at the Bills. Josh Allen's on his rookie deal. Look at what the Bills have been able to do with their roster. You know Josh Allen's going to get a $40+ million contract, although I think that's a safer deal than the Rodgers one, because Allen's had no injury issues. I mean, he's more than a decade younger. Heck, I want to say he's like 13 years younger, 14 at this point. Let's say 13. And and he's built bigger and stronger than Rodgers. I mean, if you're paying a quarterback big money, it hurts your chances of getting to the Super Bowl. The 49ers got to the Super Bowl against the Chiefs with, Garoppolo well paid, but he wasn't in the top 10. I don't even know if he was he might have been top 15 at the time, but it just goes to show, like, if Aaron Rodgers is asking for $50 million, he's asking to be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, not to be the best quarterback on a Super Bowl contender. Or, like, on a legitimate Super Bowl contender. Because, to be honest, it very much looks like, yes, the best thing in football is to have an elite quarterback. Like, it's extremely valuable. What's more valuable than that is having a really good quarterback on a rookie deal and using all that money to pay other guys. Because if you're paying your quarterback if you're paying Joe Burrow's contract right now, that's like $30 million, because what he would get on the open market right now would be among the top contracts in the league, and that's over $40 million. The franchise tag number, I think, for wide receiver and defensive line or defensive end right now is like $20 million. Like, you could go out on the free agent market, you could get, and based on I'm just gonna piece together. Let's put $35 million in savings. Let's say that right now. Quarterback on his rookie deal compared to one of the elite quarterbacks and what they're making, or what Aaron Rodgers is asking. And let's be fair, and let's say Aaron Rodgers doesn't get $50 million, but let's say he does get $45 million, or let's say like $46 million. That, what I'm looking at right there, is a little over $35 million in difference between what Burrow made this year. And I might be underselling. It might be like $37 million. You could get Chris Godwin right now, people are expecting like I think because coming off the injury, are looking at like 15 to 17 million dollars. Let's go on the high end. Let's say 17 million dollars a year for Chris Godwin. Then you've got, and so that's a really great perimeter weapon, slot and outside weapon at receiver. The franchise tag right now for safeties is like $12 million. Well, let's just use what Cincy can do differently because of that. Cincy could retain Jesse Bates on the franchise tag, which once again I believe is $12 million for a safety, which is ludicrous. Let's say they hand him a deal like that compensates him like one of the best safeties in the NFL, like which he is. Let's say they convince him to sign like a 4-year, $62 million contract. So that's so that's like $15.25 million a year. You've still got $20 million to go out. You've retained your best player because Burrow's on the contract he's on. If they were having to re-up Burrow right now, based on the quarterback market, they're not doing that. And there are some people saying the Bengals might not bring back Bates. They might just let him test the waters. Because, and here's the thing, they've done a really good job of evaluating and drafting safeties over the past decade or so. So, more power to them. I try and keep Bates around. At least I'd franchise him, at least for one more year. Because that number's not bad. And I think you can get a reasonable contract for a guy who is really important to their defense. And I'm big on good safety play anyway, personally. Like, you get a guy like Bates who literally gives you everything at safety at a good to great level. Done. Like, that guy is very valuable, and he's not asking Jamal Adams money. He doesn't have that kind of hype. He wasn't drafted as high either. So I think the Bengals should stick with him. But, you've got like a guy like Jesse Bates. Team could probably, or on the open market, probably getting him for around $15 million a year. Von Miller. I'm seeing stuff all over the place. Some people have Von Miller like potentially pulling in like 17 million or like 13 million. I don't know. Like, at his age, I'm going to say it's going to be under 10 million. I'm hearing some people say it's more like 8 million or 8.5 million. So let's put Von Miller at 10 million. Right now, you've got Bates. Like, if I'm going high end, you've got Bates and Miller. Well, heck, at Miller's high end. You've just got Bates and Miller, and then a few $1 million more to kick around just because you got that quarterback on the rookie deal instead of Aaron Rodgers at what he's at wanting on a long-term contract. The Broncos are going to trade, and they have a really good roster, but they'd probably have to make some or weed some guys. And you're gonna have to expend draft picks to get Rodgers to pay him that. To be honest, if I'm the Broncos, I've said go for Rodgers. Because if someone's going to break the mold of what's been going on, it's Rodgers. It's one of these elite quarterbacks is finally going to break it. But the problem is there have been enough great elite or quarterbacks coming in and being successful on that rookie contract to screw up these other teams that have really good rosters and an elite quarterback being paid elite money. While they're getting there with either a veteran quarterback who's at the end of that contract signed, well, in Brady's case, it's like Brady's always done things and kind of taken discounts. Stafford got traded, you know, but the rest of it, I mean, it's because of rookie. It's the money you're able to spend elsewhere. If you're able to make smart trades and get great draft assets, if you're able to scout and draft better, which one of the reasons the Rams are so good is because their scouting department and their front office nail those mid and late round picks. They do well with undrafted free agents. They do well picking up guys that other people weren't able to develop or didn't give the opportunity to develop. The Rams have done a great job of that. Done a great job in free agency, and they've done a great job of replacing coaches. Look at all the coaches they've lost during the Vay tenure. I mean, it's incredible. Zach Taylor, he was playing against one of his former assistants. There was another, the guy who's going to be their offensive coordinator this year, replacing Kevin Connell, who's leaving for the Vikings. He had left to be the offensive coordinator at Kentucky, the University of Kentucky last year. And their offense really improved. I mean, their defensive coordinator just got hired away to be the Chargers head coach. And he had replaced Wade freaking Phillips, who was their defensive coordinator during their first, Super Bowl run that they lost to the Patriots in. I mean, good organizations just make things work because they do more things. They are great at doing things that other organizations aren't as, like, they just are more consistent at doing good work all across the board. Because to me, draft picks are everything. They are the lifeblood. The Rams, in a way, the Rams agree. Those picks are valuable, and they're valuable assets for getting the guys that we have identified that are veterans who are worth the money they're being paid. That's how they got Ramsey. That's how they got Stafford. That's how they got Goff. To be honest, they traded up to get Goff. The Titans really benefited from it, but look at who eventually got to the Super Bowl first. Twice. And won one of them. Titans hadn't gotten there yet. But we've been pretty freaking good. And we're really good this year despite our quarterback. So, Yep. Sorry, my cat just lasered through here. So, anyway, I guess this is going from NFL rumors to team building philosophy. Don't, be excited about getting elite talent, but it's more exciting when you develop it yourself, and it's more exciting when it's on that rookie deal. I mean, I think that's the big bummer for a lot of the teams that drafted quarterbacks this year outside the Patriots. The Patriots got to the Super Bowl not to the Super Bowl. The Patriots got to the playoffs with Mac Jones this year. And there's still some decent flaws on that team. They're set up to keep going forward. Like, they've got 3 more years of really cheap, and then that 5th-year option for him being, which they've changed the 5th-year option thing, but that 5th-year option is still going to be under his market value if he keeps on the trajectory he's on. The Chargers are elated because look at what they've got in Justin Herbert, and they've still got 2 more years of him super cheap. Bengals still have 2 more years of Joe Burrow, super cheap. And then, of course, their 5th-year options. Like I just said, the Patriots, Mac Jones, 3 more years. And even for these other teams that didn't have necessarily immediate year 1 success, Trevor Lawrence still got 3 years to become that, or to really show out as that elite quarterback that's going to make you know, Jacksonville's life easier. Same with, and that was a big part of the reason the Jaguars were so good in 2017. Bortles was in year 4 of his rookie contract. I think it was year 4. Well, he was still on that rookie deal when they had that blip season, and their roster was loaded between good drafting and some free agent money spent. I mean, like that team had I think Allen Robinson was still on that team. I think he was still on the Jaguars at the time. You know, he was a great draft pick. But I want you to, it's like, I would encourage you to go and look at some of these free agent boards that different sites have up, and especially ones that have like projected contract value, and just see what the difference between that 30 to potentially $40 million difference, that top tier elite quarterback contract versus the rookie deal quarterback contract, what it'll buy you. And if you've done a good job drafting in certain areas and developing in certain areas, or do a good job just between where guys were last year and this year with the picks you've maybe had, it can make a world of difference. You know, the Bears trade up for Justin Fields and they trade a future first to get him, and you see where that is. That hurts right now. If those offensive linemen they've drafted, if they can get that offensive line worked out, and I think they've got a better coaching staff in there for sure. And they definitely have a better GM in there, in my opinion. Fields could make a big year 2 jump. Trey Lance hasn't really gotten a shot. A lot of people there's a lot of talk that he's really far away. There's a lot of talk that a lot of these people are just have their own sour grapes or whatever, or just defending Jimmy G, which Jimmy Garoppolo does deserve some defense. I still would rather move on to Trey Lance right now if I'm the Niners, because we've seen, like, we know what the Niners are with Garoppolo, and Garoppolo's not getting any younger. To be honest, he's not getting better. And he's already got enough health issues, and I don't trust him to stay healthy consistently right now. And Lance has all the talents in the world you could ask for, and he's got a coach who can get the most out of him, and he has from all accounts has the work ethic and personality to do so. The problem is Jimmy G's got a great personality. People believe him, people love him. People will go to war with him. And he's done enough at this point that as long as he's in the building, Trey Lance isn't going to get the fair shot he deserves from the locker room either. Jimmy G deserves to be somewhere, though, where, you know, in my opinion, where he's not necessarily looking over his shoulder, and where the coaching staff, he is their number one option. I'd love to see him in Washington, getting a chance there. I mean, yeah, sure, Heineke's there, but there's no pressure for Heineke to start over, or to be pushed into the starting role over Garoppolo, for any reason. Whereas, like, there's a lot invested in Lance right now. And if the Niners get off of Garoppolo's money in a trade, because, like, if they were to trade him, like, I don't think he has like, I think there's only like a few $1,000,000 left in guarantees. Like they're getting off of most of that money. That money can be spent elsewhere. Uh, so, you know, and they'll recoup draft assets, or maybe they're able to swing for some veteran player in a deal. But I think it would just, I think it would just be draft compensation. You get good or some decent draft comp. That really helps because you're out your first round pick this year. Which, because this does get into the rumors. You know, Garoppolo. Well, I say rumors. It's pretty out in the open that the Niners are trying to get or to move Garoppolo and get him to a team, or get him to a good team that's looking for a starting quarterback because they believe they have the roster to contend, or that they're close. That this offseason, adding him and some pieces this offseason, they'll have the team to contend. That seems to be the goal. And they're going to give Lance all the starters reps like this offseason. Like they're going to go into the season with they're going to put him through fire in the offseason, and they're going to have him walk through fire in the regular season. And they believe they can get him ready. So that then bears the question, where does he go? Because Washington apparently has put out an initial offer to the Texans for Deshaun Watson, who a lot of people aren't talking about Watson. Everybody's talking about Rodgers and Wilson. There's a lot of people who don't want to touch the Watson topic right now. Because a lot of them, I think there's a lot of people that aren't talking about because they don't want to talk about that situation. Because they don't want their true feelings on it to be known. Because there's a lot of people, I think, who believe that this lawsuit against Watson, or these lawsuits, are probably, like, at this point, Watson's not being fairly treated in this. Because there's no criminal proceedings going on. This is all civil. And all these civil cases started before any criminal complaints, or without having, there were no criminal complaints on the table when these civil suits were filed. Not a one. And I'm sorry. If you're not willing to go to bat, like if you're not going to go to the criminal charges table, it seems kind of weird that you're going for like something civilly, like in a matter like this. I don't know. It throws up red flags for me at the very least. So I think there's a lot of people that don't want to touch it because they believe that Watson has already been kind of punished enough. Like, because there are some people saying, well, he wasn't going to play for the Texans anyway. I think he would have played. I think he absolutely would have played. And the thing is, wasn't suspended. And I think it would be bullcrap now if Watson did get suspended with no criminal charges, because that's basically what last year was. Last year was a suspension because no one traded for him. No one traded for him because they didn't. No one traded for him because they didn't know what the situation was going to hold. They knew he wasn't going to play last year. And I think it'd be super unfair at this point if he got suspended. Full stop. Because if this whole thing wasn't looming over him, someone would have traded for him. So it's complicated. So, but people, I hear people talking about, free or like trading for quarterbacks. I'm hearing, and superstar quarterbacks. I'm hearing all the superstar names. I'm hearing names of Garoppolo. I'm hearing names of everybody but Watson. People are avoiding his name. I love Brett Coleman. I love the Bootleg Football Show. Is it BJ or EJ? Is his co-host, who I love listening to him talk. Talk about like small school players and that kind of stuff. Like, they're great. Bootleg Football, check them out. They're super top. But they didn't talk, like, they had their Bootleg Day stream Saturday, they didn't talk at all about Watson. They didn't bring up Watson's name once. And, you know, they were talking about, because people were asking questions about different teams. I'm like, he has to be part of the conversation unless, one, you don't want to piss anybody off, politically speaking, because, you come out, you even have, like, you're worried about mentioning him at all because you don't want people to get upset about your feelings on him or the situation, or that, oh, you only care about football and you don't care about these women kind of stuff. I'm not saying that that's why they did it, because they're great guys, I think, but it just kind of seems odd. I'm like, they must have some reason for not bringing up Watson. I feel like it has to do with the legal stuff. And this is another problem, because between that and how long it is taking and how it is either rightfully or wrongfully so affecting his life like this. If he was guilty of everything, why didn't they just go to criminal court? Because the guy deserves to be locked up. And here's a fun fact: civil suits and the findings in a civil court have no bearing on a criminal case whatsoever. That's not evidence of anything in a criminal case. And if anything, it poisons the well of any potential jury for a criminal case, in which case he can't get a fair shake. There's no criminal, this is all about money, which makes me believe it's not really about justice. And there's a lot of social media posts for some of these clients that basically make their civil claims even seem meritless. But I'm not the judge, and I've only read the filings and information that I've been able to get a hold of, which is not a complete, not a complete stock of information. It's not all the information. Therefore, I'm working with like one of my hands, or maybe one and a half of them, when it comes to information on that stuff. But it does paint a decent picture, for me at least. So the media's dodging Watson even more than they were last year, because people were at least talking about it last year. Now they don't even, it's like they won't even touch it. They won't even touch his name. It's really weird. And I brought up Bootleg as an example. They're not the only people. Not the only people avoiding him in these conversations. So, that being said, I mentioned the, Redskins make an offer for Watson. They also, I believe, are pretty high on Garoppolo. I think those are their two options. I don't think they're looking at Rodgers at all. And I don't think they're interested in Russell Wilson. Now, they might be, but I've heard Watson, I've heard Garoppolo. I haven't heard anything about the other two. And I don't believe that they're interested in, well, at this time, we'll see what happens before the draft. I think they're looking for a veteran or a young veteran. I don't think they're looking for a rookie quarterback right now. At least not in this draft. But that could change. And they could just be doing a good job of smoke screening. If I had to guess for the Redskins, if they went rookie quarterback, I'd imagine it would have to be, I'd imagine it'd be Cousins or Corral. I don't think, they don't have a veteran quarterback on their roster as of right now that, makes sense to be a mentor for Malik Willis. Like not even Taylor. Like Taylor Heineke is, he's still kind of a developmental player as much as they played. Like he's not gonna really be able to teach Malik much. There's not going to be like a ton to learn, and Willis is probably not going to take him that seriously anyway, unless he's the best kind of guy who will take you know, any, tutelage gifted to him, you know, the right kind. Because, like, there's stuff Heineke can't, I don't think, could credibly act like he's some kind of expert on either. But, or that, he's no Alex Smith. Or even like a Teddy Bridgewater. So, I'll tell you, Teddy Bridgewater is going to be an interesting name. I wouldn't be shocked to see him back in New Orleans potentially. I definitely could see him being in one of the cities that loses out in the quarterback carousel. He might be an interesting thought for Pittsburgh. But don't be too excited about your downfield passing game. Broncos, of course, seem to be all in on Rodgers. I think they're putting feelers out on other people, though. But it seems like if they're going, it seems like they are all in on Rodgers. I don't think a Garoppolo is an answer because they've already had a Bridgewater, and I don't. They want someone who can open up their offense, utilize all the weapons they have available. So that's a Rodgers, that's a Watson, and a Wilson. I at this point I really don't think Wilson's going to go anywhere. Yeah, he removed he removed a bunch of stuff off his social media, yada 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 yada. Don't care. It's kind of the same thing with Rodgers, except there's less money. Well, I think Wilson's easier to move at the moment. I'm trying to remember whose cap hits lower. I'm pretty sure it's Wilson's. Wilson's is lower right now than you think. And I think he's got more years left. I think. I mean, and he's younger than Rodgers. I just have a hard time feeling like from an offensive structure, where is he gonna go? That's gonna be better than having DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Dwayne Eskridge, Gerald Everett, and an improving offensive line. Where is he going to go out of these teams? Could say the Redskins. They got Terry McLaurin. I like Diami Brown a lot. They signed Curtis Samuel last year. They've got an interesting stable of running backs led by Antonio Gibson, and I think J.D. McKissic's still there, who's a former teammate of Wilson's. Logan Thomas will be back healthy. But they've got some questions on offensive line too. Like, is Brandon Scherff going to be back? Tell you what, if I'm the Bengals right now, I'm running to the bank for Scherff. There's another guy to pair with re-upping Bates. Brandon Scherff. Be interesting to see what it takes to get him. He could be at the top of the market for guards. Maybe he comes in a little below. But that's going to be north of $15 million a year. But if you're the Bengals, you can do that because you got Burrow instead of, mega money. Wilson, of course, is going to be looking for a new contract too, though. And that's the thing. And what can you keep of your roster? Like that's the problem with bringing in these guys. It's one thing to plan around a guy that you've drafted or that you got in the building for a few years, you know, it's different when you're having to plop this down on you. Like, you're bringing in a guy who's making over 20 million a year, and you're having to plan for paying him over 40 million a year. That's a big set. Like, that's a lot of work to be done usually, because a lot of times when you're bringing that in, you didn't have that to begin with. You didn't, like, the Commanders, the Washington Commanders, the commies don't have a big ticket, big money quarterback on their roster right now. Denver doesn't have a big money, big ticket quarterback on their roster right now. So, they've been working without that. Now, maybe they've been planning to have that problem, and that's good. If you're able to build a really, really good roster and have the ability to kind of, or fairly painlessly fit that in, that's good. Don't know how many teams have really had that. The Eagles right now, I think Wentz's money, most of it's gone now. Maybe I'm wrong. I guess I'd need to check over the cap. That's going to be a huge, or having that money gone is going to help them immensely in maneuvering the next few years and building a great team. And they seem to believe, I think, that they can get Hurts to a good enough level going into, he was drafted 20, so he's got 2 more years left on his rookie deal. And because he was a second-round pick, he doesn't have a 5th-round option. Do you really think in the next 2 years you can get him to a level good enough that money, that the Wentz savings will improve, like, that will get you close to contention? And if you get him that far, are you willing to pay him the second contract, or a second contract, that's worth a decent amount of money? I mean, I'm not saying Hurts is going to ever be up at the upper strata, but it is interesting. Like, is he going to be significantly better than a rookie contract, or a rookie quarterback on a rookie contract on his second contract? I don't know if I believe that. And I tell you what, the Giants have a big decision right now. Do they pick up Daniel Jones' 5th-year option? I wouldn't. I would rather not pick up that option, because now one of the things under the new CBA, used to, that 5th-year option was only became guaranteed if the guy got injured. Only way it got auto guaranteed. Now it's just automatically, if you pick it up, that money's fully guaranteed from the moment. Because used to, you could pick it up, and if the guy didn't get hurt, you could cut him and not incur any money. That's what happened with Blake Bortles. He all of a sudden had, it was like a thumb or hand injury. That required surgery or whatever. And that guaranteed his 5th-year option that the Jags picked up. Unwisely picked up. And then I think, didn't they do like a little extension on top of that too? Anyway, it's not important now. Jones, 5th-year option. I'm trying to remember what it would be worth. But you're basically sinking like $20 million in costs. Or more. I think it's like 20 million, 21 million. They pick that up, and Jones, despite because they're doing everything they can. They brought in Brian Dable, and we're even doing it last year. Look at their receiving core. I think Sterling Shepard. I thought he might be a free agent. It might only be if the Giants cut him. Like he's on like, it's not a super expensive. Like it's a mid-level, like a mid-tier like price tag. Darius Slayton is a free agent. They just drafted Kadarius Toney in the first round. They signed Kenny Golladay last year to a contract. Evan Ingram's a free agent and probably isn't going back to New York. They've invested in the offensive line, and there was improvement, especially from Andrew Thomas. Andrew Thomas looks like the pick was worth it. Year one, it was very obvious Tristan Wirfs, number one. And then it was like, Mekhi Becton looked really good. Willis was kind of up and, or kind of, he was better than Thomas. Now Wills is at the bottom. Becton, the new regime there, or like the regime there, all of a sudden, like, I don't know, it seems kind of wishy-washy. I'm like, he got hurt, but he was good. Like, you better start him somewhere, because I guarantee you they're not going to have an offensive line where he's not one of the 5 best players going into the season. That would shock me. Otherwise, the Jets are going to have like the best offensive line in the NFL next year if Becton can't play on it or can't start on it. Now Wills is kind of at the bottom of that kind of group of that top 4. Wirfs is definitely still at the top, but Thomas is now firmly, I think, in second right now out of that group. So I think the Giants still need to work on their offensive line, but they really need to work on their defense and having a framework that puts Daniel Jones in the best position to succeed, and as well Saquon Barkley. But if Jones can't hack it this year, he's not going to. Now, I'm not saying he should be out of the NFL, but, this is now he moves into like maybe a high-end backup, area, or some other like high-end backup that some other teams like maybe hoping can get more out of than he's gotten before. But I don't see how he's going to be in a better situation from a, he's got a quality supporting cast at the skill positions, depending on what they do, like at tight end, and we'll see how they come out of things. But if they improve the offensive line a little bit, they've got the head coach in, like they've got the quarterback friendly coach, like the guy who should be able to get the most out of him in charge now. So I really don't see how the Giants can't, or how I don't think the Giants should pick up that 5th-year option, period. If he pops, great. You franchise him, you get an extension done, you're good. But I wouldn't sign up for that 5th-year option right now. Don't lock yourself into any money. You don't have to. Because if Jones doesn't work out or doesn't look markedly better this year, you're going to be right where you were right where you are right now this offseason. And next year is a much better quarterback class at the top. Because the top 2 guys for sure, I would say if they were in this class, they'd be numbers 1 and 2. Bryce Young for sure. I'd say C.J. Stroud as well would be ahead of everybody as well. So So yeah, don't pick up that 5th-year option. You make it make or break time for Daniel Jones. Because it's year 4. We just saw with Sam Darnold, Offensive line was really bad. Not a shock. The weapons were good, although there were some injuries like Christian McCaffrey. That didn't help matters. But it also didn't help that they fired Joe Brady. Like, that was, if there's one red flag for Matt Rule, is that he got rid of Joe Brady after a little over a season. And it was not Joe Brady's fault that the offense was as bad as it was. Which sounds, because, you could say what you want, but that was the front office's problem. The one thing that Darnold never had in New York, and was the biggest reason for his lack of success after they fired Bowles, which was stupid. Never should have fired Bowles. And even when they did, they never should have hired Adam Gase. Darnold comes in to a new system. Like, Joe Brady's system is new to him. He's, once again, behind one of the worst offensive lines. Outside of Taylor Moton, that offensive line last year stunk. The left side, particularly. I think Matt Parady's their center. I don't know if he was hurt at all. Like, I like Parody, but three positions on that line were awful. And Moton's a good right tackle. Parody's like a good center. If you've got three just absolute weak points, like down at the bottom of the league, like, I'm sorry, that's not great for your quarterback. And when your top offensive player outside of him gets hurt, like, Darnold didn't have a whole lot to work with, or didn't have a whole lot of help there. And therefore, Joe Brady didn't either. And the defense collapsed, too, after having an awesome start. They fired Brady, and the offense got worse. So, it basically was Darnold was put in the same position he was in New York. Because, guess what? During the beginning of his time in New York, he had Robbie Anderson. He had Jamison Crowder. He had some, like, decent weapons. Like, he had some usable weapons. Running back room wasn't terrible. Heck, one year he had Le'Veon Bell. That was wasted money, by the way. So maybe that's not the best example, but Joe Brady wasn't the issue with the Panthers offense. It was Matt Rule, the offensive line, and in my opinion, the front office, for having that way. And some injuries. Injuries didn't help either. But Darnold's already broken. Like, and that's the other thing. I'm going to blame Darnold before I blame Joe Brady. Joe Brady didn't go out and trade for Sam Darnold. And that offense looked pretty decent under Teddy Bridgewater the year before. So, hands in the air. Anyway, it's 3:42. Let's jump into our last story, or kind of big story for the day. Tomorrow's show will be probably a little more robust. Got an interesting article I want to go through tomorrow. Just some big draft question type stuff heading into the combine. So Derek Jeter has stepped down as the CEO of the Miami Marlins. Which, that was an interesting title anyway, because I'm like, CEO is a business position in a lot of ways. But that seems like he's also, like, he's stepping down as the main voice running the Marlins. And he is part of the ownership group. So, I guess he just got tired of all the criticism, maybe. Really abrupt. Not super shocked by it, but, Because the Marlins, it's not like they're doing anything. Because who would have thought they're rebuilding again? But just, I mean, this kind of came out of nowhere. It's not like I've been hearing like rumors that he was thinking about quitting or whatever. Just all of a sudden, no Derek Jeter anymore running the Marlins. Maybe they'll get someone who's spent their entire lives putting together uh, winning baseball teams to run their organization rather than a guy who played on teams that were run by people who knew how to put talent together. Just because you were a great player doesn't mean you'll be a great coach. Just because you're a great player doesn't mean you will be a great personnel executive, evaluator of future talent. Having talent is not the same as cultivating talent. Having talent is not the same as coaching and developing talent. Some people have a knack for doing things. Some people have a knack for teaching people how to do things. Like some people have an aptitude for learning. You can be a great student and not be a great teacher. You can be a meh student and be a great teacher. Like, some people are made to give directions, some people are made to follow them. So I don't know. And that's not, and when I say that, I don't mean some people were made to be elite and some people were made to be, you know, pawns. Like, I've used this before and someone was like, I'm like, no, that's not what I mean. Um, some people, some people understand how to manage assets. Some people understand, some people who didn't have the ability to do or were in like, especially in sports, someone like me, I don't have the physical measurables and also end up with the visual disability. Some people don't have the ability to keep going up through the levels of sports because of athletic ceilings. That doesn't mean our brain has those same limitations. Some of us had to start using our brains earlier than others, and we found we find ways to mitigate our issues. When you can teach some of those efficiency things to someone who has a much greater athletic ceiling than you can create cheat codes. That's what Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen are doing, is they are practicing all of the little things and improving in all the technical areas that can be improved. But they've got skills that nobody else has. Like they have physical traits and talents that nobody else has. So if they get to where they're equaling guys like Alex Smith when it comes to decision making and processing the game, Alex Smith didn't have their arm, doesn't have their build, doesn't have their strength. I mean, just that's not a knock on Alex Smith. I just mean like that's just what it is. You know, guys like Jeff Garcia, you know, they just had to think quicker than everybody else. They had to improvise in ways that other quarterbacks maybe didn't. So, I'm just going to say Derek Jeter wasn't meant to be a personnel executive. He wasn't meant to run a baseball organization. But he was a great captain for your team. when he was playing. That being said, I'm gonna end the show for today. I think this is solid. And like I said, tomorrow we'll be back. We'll be kind of talking. We'll talk some NFL Combine stuff. I need to I need to get back in a groove of doing some NBA content, especially considering this is like, the stretch run, and we'll be going into the playoffs here in a month and a half or so. But I don't know. There's just been some stuff, haven't really. I guess I just hadn't been super hyped to cover it compared to like football stuff because that's really what I love. And probably later in the week, I'll probably do some college football stuff, kind of ranking some teams off seasons, like who's been winning. I say off season. Off season is a dirty word. There is really no off season in college football because there's always something going on, just like the NFL. That being said, this has been Blind Eye Live. I am your host, Blind Eye himself, and I bid you a good evening. Have one.